The motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and it is a pleasure, Ms Harris, to serve under your chairmanship today, and I beg to move that this House has considered business confidence. Sustained economic growth is the only route to improving the prosperity of our country and the living standards of working people. So intoned the Labour manifesto published over 114 days ago ahead of the general election. And I'm sure if not all of us across this House accept this basic and fundamental premise that this is what ultimately funds our vital public services, which are crucial to all our communities. Reducing inflation, giving business confidence to invest and deliver growth was a hallmark of the outgoing Conservative government. After a difficult number of years affected by the pandemic, the important for all members of Parliament to be business champions for our communities remain. And may I thank every business in all of our communities for what they do every day, every business on our high street, in industrial estates, in the rural economy, for those self-employed and those taking a chance, so that others can be employed, that sectors can grow and families are importantly supported. Many businesses in Mid-Sussex District, the Wealdon District and the Lewis District also are hidden. They are family businesses, they are start-ups in back bedrooms, they are future dreams, they are more opportunities, and they are, above all, a way to connect our communities to a thriving local economy and an investment in our future and giving truly opportunity for all. And in fact, very shortly I'll be hosting my Taste of East Grinstead and Uckfield constituency event in the House of Commons, a follow-up to my most recent business breakfast at the Highlands in Uckfield, and I'm sure many other MPs will be showcasing their businesses and working with them in this way. So, despite lingering COVID shocks and the devastating war in Ukraine, inflation reached 2% by May and economic growth rebounded strongly, reaching 0.5% in Q2, and our dominant services sector growing by 1.5% in the same quarter. Key to delivering economic growth is, of course, inspiring confidence, the so-called animal spirits of the oft-remembered words of John Maynard Keynes. And it is vital, a prerequisite for this aim. Indicators suggest confidence was growing in the first half of this year. Like many things, the new Labour government has failed to live up to its own hype, let alone the aspirations of millions of working people or businesses who do create those jobs and opportunities all across our land. And I do welcome the International Investment Summit, the £63 billion raised through that investment summit. But I do remind the House almost half of this investment was already announced by the Conservative government previously, and may I warn the Minister the danger of double counting when it comes to this. In a little over 100 days, the Institute of Directors' Economic Confidence Index, however, though, has fallen to -38, the lowest since December 2022. And the same index points out business investment intentions showing the sharpest drop since the onset of the pandemic, +24 in July and now -6 come September, the lowest since September 2022. And the CBI trends have shown manufacturers through output output would fall over the next year, -7 compared to +9 in August 24. And the latest Purchase Manager Index for the services sector is also, I'm afraid, heading in the wrong direction, showing our economic recovery is somewhat running out of steam under this new government. So what is the cause of this reversal? IOD members cite ongoing concerns over tax changes and the cost of new Labour reforms. The British Chamber of Commerce refer to, in particular, on the domestic front, I quote, many businesses are increasingly anxious about the direction of economic policy, and taxation has become a primary concern. Concern over tax is now the biggest single concern for business leaders. A survey undertaken by the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales cites tax being the chief concern, the highest on the survey ever. And given the mood music emanating from the top of government, how can this be anything other than a surprise? Both the Chancellor and the Prime Minister have repeatedly warned further taxes are coming. A hard winter, not just only for the pensioners, but for business, because they have repeatedly refused to tell us where. We heard clearly at the dispatch box just this last week. Now, this is a result of a single structural decision to delay the budget until October and allowing rumours to simply replace this. Already, this is changing businesses' behaviour. A survey by Eveling Partners shows 29% of business owners are looking to sell, whilst hard data shows the Treasury pocketing the highest level of capital gains tax in 15 years as investors head Minister to the exit door. This is hardly a recipe for growth, let alone stability, which the Labour Party promised our constituents. And just last week in PMQs, the Prime Minister and recently on the media refused to rule out a rise in the national insurance employer national insurance. I remind members present, honourable members, here that the Labour manifesto was clear. Labour will not increase taxes on working people, which is why we will not increase national insurance, creating a falling away of job vacancies. And may I remind the Minister and his government that local small business owners are clearly working people. This is a pure jobs tax. So now Labour's position, it seems to be taxing working people is bad, but taxing their jobs is good. No wonder businesses are confused and concerned. One local agricultural business wrote to me from my constituency. I hear dark stories about the forthcoming budget and the possibility that the financial support for the agricultural sector of the economy is likely to be reduced or even slashed. If that were to happen, the viability of my family's enterprise would be at risk, and the livelihoods of between 20 and 30 local families would be threatened. Our business is focused on producing milk, grain, timber for the nation, and on caring for the environment in which we live and operate. And I'm sure that other members here will be bringing similar concerns from their own constituencies to this place and reporting similar. I will, to the Honourable Lady. Right Honourable Lady.
Thank you for giving way, and I congratulate her on bringing this very important and timely debate. And just to say really that many farmers in my constituency of Maidstone and Malling are having a very, very tough time in a similar way to the farmers are having in her own constituency. And I believe that business confidence for many is pretty much at an all-time low. And does she agree with me that reducing red tape, regulation, bureaucracy, endless reporting, and having a slightly more light touch approach in terms of planning, rediversification of farms, could boost business confidence and inspire and motivate farmers?
I thank my right honourable friend, the Honourable Lady. Absolutely right. I've had these conversations with my own district in Mid-Sussex about supporting diversification in the rural economy. If things were changing on the high street, they would be supported. If they are in a rural business, they are blocked. And I absolutely agree with the Honourable Lady, and I hope the Minister is listening. It seems his party are not here to listen, and I do thank some of the other parties who are keenly supporting their own constituents too. as I say, this is hardly a recipe for growth, let alone stability. I must say, my own South of England showground in Ardingly, the farming conference is coming up shortly, and this will be vital to business. And actually, sponsorship and support of that has been absolutely key, and gives me the opportunity to say good luck to Fallow Meadow, a new event space in West Hoathly, a family business in my own constituency, another rural business taking a chance to diversify and try to keep their family farms supported. I will to the very honourable gentleman.
Not very honourable, I'm just honourable to you. Okay, thanks so much. Can I just say thank the Honourable Lady very much for her contribution for setting the scene so very well. Does the Honourable Lady agree that small businesses are the backbone of our community? They certainly are my constituency, and yet have the hardest hit post-COVID recovery that has not been easy. With the cost of living increasing, small businesses are finding it increasingly difficult to stay competitive with the online monster. Does the Honourable Lady not agree that confidence can only come when government is working hard, and this is to the Minister, in hand to regulate and tax online businesses effectively and support all businesses in this new tech age, so the ones that have been there forever can still be there for the future?
I thank the honourable gentleman for, again, his intervention on his community and on the local economy in Northern Ireland, which matters so much. These are people stridently working to make wages every week, not only for themselves, but for their sectors and families and communities. And I agree with the online challenge. It's gargantuan and absolutely right that we look to future-proof many of these businesses that have been going for decades. It's very difficult to start a business, let alone maintain a business, and if we let businesses fail because we don't support them for the future, then we will look back in real horror. So I thank the honourable gentleman for his intervention. The employment package announced last week, already senior businesses are warning this will limit investment, reduce growth and jobs in years to come, let alone thinking about small businesses as well. Of particular concern is the cost imposed on small businesses. Leading the charge on this, the FSB, warning that small businesses will be looking at these changes with trepidation. The government has only managed just to meet its self-imposed target of 100 days, where indeed it's left 70 measures for 2026 to come in, meaning that the uncertainty for these businesses is going to carry on. This is a real concern. And the chaos of the comments that ministers have caused to businesses over the last few weeks. First, the Leader of the House stating a real risk of a run on the pound if we do not support our pensioners with winter fuel. In the meantime, the Prime Minister had to disavow comments made by a member of the Cabinet stating that the Transport Secretary did not speak for the government. May I say to the government, you are government ministers, you speak for not only your department, for industry and sectors, and they would do learn well to stop walking around with placards and remember that they are allegedly running the country. Now, I appreciate the Prime Minister is new, and collective responsibility for the ministers is a cornerstone to Cabinet government, and I'm sure the Minister opposite will be working diligently to do what he can to support this. And I too have been a minister for a number of years, as employment minister during the COVID years, and know how difficult it is. And I do genuinely, I think we all do, genuinely wish them well, because by holding this debate today, by being really honest on behalf of businesses and our constituents about the concerns, that they've been aired, that they've been heard, that the national interest demands that government get a grip so that they can unleash the investment through the summit, spur that economic growth, deliver those local jobs and live up to the promises they've made to the British people. Otherwise, we're in for a very long and costly 5 years. May I ask the Minister in closing to reassure my businesses, our communities, that they truly understand the impact of instability, and ask what action the government will take in regard, for example, to Crawley College, which unfortunately is shutting down engineering places as we strive for this new future, which concerns me because many of my businesses in East Grinstead and beyond need these engineering and apprenticeship places to support their future. future. So that in the work that they're doing, they are truly working cross-government to make sure these next 5 years are a success for all our communities and constituencies, so that we have the public services and the local economies that we all strive to and aspire to. Thank you.
I intend to call the front bench speakers at 5:08, so can all members take that into consideration and to keep their remarks within under 5 minutes. The question is that this House has considered business confidence. Robin Swan.
Thank you very much, Ms Harrison. As Chair, I'll take your direction very directly. Because when we consider business confidence, I want to focus solely on a small part, and that's the confidence of businesses in the UK and across the United Kingdom, actually in the UK's internal market. Chair, as my honourable member, the member for Strangford, has said, and the proposer of the motion said about small businesses and medium businesses being the backbone of our communities, none more so in Northern Ireland than my constituency in South Antrim. And where we have that real challenge at the minute is in regards to the outworkings of the Windsor framework and how our small businesses can actually sell into the rest of the UK, but also can purchase parts and other things that they want to sell on actually from the rest of the UK as well. So they're finding difficulty in getting parts, other parts to sell, or even selling across the Irish Sea, and the challenges that are there. Now, I have a small business who wrote to me prior to this debate actually being called, and that's why I thought it was useful to come here, because they are a small business, and to survive they've actually went to online selling, and they're selling through Amazon. And what they say, we are looking some advice on what is going to happen after the 13th of December, when the EU's general product safety regulations actually kick off, because they will be applicable to those selling online coming from Northern Ireland. So as an online business, this is starting to do us a lot of harm already. Places like Amazon, where we do most of our business, are making us do compliance reports for every item that we probably sell, and have over 60,000 items that have to be done one at a time. So it's adding additional bureaucracy and cost to those small businesses, to an extent where they're also saying that suppliers are now saying that they will no longer post to Northern Ireland. So actually completely destroying that business confidence across what should be our United Kingdom. And I'm meeting another English company later this week who are telling me they want to supply Northern Ireland, but because of the introduction of the EU's GPSR coming into effect on the 13th of December, that they will look to cease trading into Northern Ireland. Chair, the 13th of December is 3 weeks prior to Christmas and New Year's sales. So it's a crucial time for the reliance of those small businesses who look to the online sales. So why I brought this and why I asked this question, and I hope the Minister can provide answers. There were two bodies created recently and announced by the Northern Ireland Secretary of State, Intertrade UK and the Windsor Framework Independent Monitoring Panel, where we thought answers to these questions and queries could be answered. But in asking the Northern Ireland office, we're still awaiting those two bodies actually to be appointed or established, all the while the clock is ticking down in regards to what our consumers and our suppliers and our sellers in Northern Ireland want to actually achieve. So I hope the Minister, if he can't today, provide me reassurance or guidance into this, because I've asked the Department of Trade, I've asked the Northern Ireland office, and still as yet I can give no reassurance or guidance to the Northern Ireland small and medium-sized companies who want to produce in this. And in finishing, Chair, I will point out in the proposer's motion where she referred to that £63 billion business summit and the announcements, and I appreciate where she talked about the double funding and the double announcements. Chair, I'd have been happy if any of it had been indicated that it was coming to Northern Ireland, because from what I see, actually in the announcement that was made, England gets a fair share, Wales gets some, Scotland gets some, but I can see nothing coming to Northern Ireland. So of that 63 billion, of those 38,000 jobs that were announced, we'll welcome any of it. Thank you, Chair.
Atty.
Chairman, and it is a real privilege to serve under your chairmanship, and I congratulate my honourable friend for East Grinstead and Uckfield for securing this really, really important debate in a very timely manner. And the reason it is so timely is because the more and more I speak to businesses or business organisations, the word holding pattern keeps coming up. or the phrase holding pattern keeps coming up. And the reason for that is because of the uncertainty that has been created in the first 100 days of this Labour government. Frankly, a lot of business organisations, and I think businesses, thought that the promise of change meant change for the better, but clearly that wasn't the case, because confidence, as we've just heard, I'm a chartered accountant by profession, at the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, their confidence monitor has seen a dip, and that's very consistent with what we are seeing across the patch. And look, politicians often refer to businesses and small businesses, which I used to cater for, and when I was president of the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce, a majority of our members were, they say they're the lifeblood of our communities. It's a very easy phrase to put out there, but it has to be more than a slogan. They are the businesses that define what our communities stand for. They're the ones that create the jobs, they're the ones that take the risks, they're the ones that create the real wealth. And frankly, look, of course, I welcome the investment as well, like my honourable friend did, although I think the number of what's new money and what's old money will be disputed, and I'm sure we'll do that in the chamber, in the main chamber and here. But look, we welcome, I've said it before, that the government successes will be the country's successes, so we welcome that level of investment. But that investment only comes when there is confidence to invest by those businesses. And it's not just domestic investment, but it's also international investors. The Labour government often talk about the inheritance that they received. Well, being the Minister for Tech and Digital Economy up until the election, I know that we had the third most valuable tech economy in the world. We had some of the highest levels of investment. We were the fastest growing in the G7. And all of that was defined by the fact that people felt confident enough to invest. In fact, weeks before the general election was called, we had about £2.5 billion come in just 1 week. So it is really, really important, and I really want to stress the importance of the business confidence and economic confidence, because the damage that is being done when the Prime Minister stood up and he talked about there is worse to come. On the back of political choices this government is making, there may well be worse to come, but they will not be able to deliver on the economic growth, on the public sector investment that they want, if the private sector does not believe that they can do it. And the other point I wanted to make really was, because there's been a lot of chatter about the moving of goalposts around fiscal rules. There is no magic money tree, as has been said before. There is no definite way of just having money out there without the chickens coming home to roost. That there is always a price to be paid, and the burden will be borne by the businesses of the United Kingdom. They will be the ones who will be taxed, and it is incredibly worrying that we've not heard real clarity around the capital gains issue. I think there was a report yesterday. I wait for the Chancellor to come to the dispatch box to confirm capital gains won't be rising, because of course that will affect investor sentiment, and the issue around national insurance, which is very much in the media today, that is really hampering, because of course when employers have to pay more national insurance, that is a cost that will be borne by consumers, which will affect demand, which then will also affect their recruitment and their labour decisions. I say labour with a small L there, possibly a big L at the next election as well, if the impact is such. And I think what's really, really worth repeating here is, I've got businesses, I've got a very entrepreneurial community, I've got a very I've got businesses. I'll be holding my business forum as well, which all honourable members are welcome to. But look, I will conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker. I take your steer on that, and I just want to say that Britain is a great place to do business. It's a great place to invest and grow, but that is despite this Labour government.
James McMurdoch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a privilege to serve under your chairmanship. Particularly on this topic of business confidence. My constituency of South Basildon and East Thurrock is rich with potential. Basildon is the industrial powerhouse of Essex, and Thurrock commands a prime location on the Thames. That's not to say both spots are not without their challenges. Basildon is facing a significant housing crisis, and the High Street is suffering, as many high streets are. But with that comes a desire to improve things, and to improve things, we need businesses to invest. So it goes without saying that those businesses must have the confidence that they can do so. Thurrock likewise was unfortunately embroiled in an investment scandal to the tune of 1.5 billion. They are in a very difficult situation. The interest servicing that debt alone is approximately 40% of their operating budget. You can imagine the challenges they face, which is exactly why we need investment, and which is exactly why we need growth, and which is exactly why we need business confidence. Now, some very specific figures have been given about the dip in confidence, which I would put lightly and say is unfortunate, but I would also put lightly and say I was somewhat dismayed to hear of decisions made in this past several weeks that will impact my constituency of South Basildon and East Thurrock directly. For example, the delaying again of the Lower Thames crossing. Now, I have talked out against the Lower Thames crossing because I do not feel it is ambitious enough. And given the 15 years and £800 million spent on its planning, to be in approximately the same state of over-extension in our capacity on the roads in just a decade's time, just 5 years after its completion, does not seem to be a good use of £9 billion of the taxpayers' money. That said, the decision was not to scrap the plan, the decision was not to go ahead with it. The decision was to delay it, which I might consider to be uncertainty. Furthermore, as we've seen in the paper, and I will put also gently, I was somewhat taken by surprise that language was used that was more akin to my university days in terms of how to respond to a business that does something that was legal but that you do not like. Now, I'm referring there to the £1 billion project that was jeopardised in relation to DP World. Now, DP World is an extremely important business, not just for my constituency, but for our country. It is the only port with 2 deep sea access areas. It has direct freight to distribute goods all across our country that come in from all over the world. It is essential. So to treat it, whether you have workers' rights in mind or not, with, let's say, a slight lack of professionalism that we might expect from the High Office was a shock to me, and I think a shock to local businesses as well. So I would like to conclude by saying my constituency wants to enrich this country. My constituents want to work hard, they want to invest, they want their businesses to flourish, and they are willing to put the time and effort in, and it has all the ingredients to do those things. But just this month alone, we have seen two projects totalling £10 billion, very literally jeopardised. Will the Minister please agree with me, or does the Minister agree with me that that is not good enough, and that going forward more considered and professional language will be used when communicating with or about our major industries and businesses? And will the Minister also consider the approach to major infrastructure projects and how delaying them does impact not just the residents but local businesses? Because there are knock-on effects. We have building projects right now which are literally dependent on the Lower Thames crossing, which has been delayed. So with that, I thank the Chair and I thank the room.
Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. It's a pleasure to be under your chairmanship, and I congratulate the honourable member for East Grinstead and Uckfield on securing the debate. I'm proud of my constituency of Wokingham and of Berkshire and of the Thames Valley for being one of the UK's centres for growth. It is home to international investment that bring well-paying jobs and prosperity to our area, building an economy fit for the future. In our small, medium-sized companies, we find innovation and sustainable local growth. And the hope is that one day, these businesses will go on to rival the giants that dominate the scene today. The past has been prosperous, but the present is beginning to show some concerning cracks. In Wokingham, between 2014 and 2022, the number of new business births per 10,000 people fell by 31%. The number of people of working age in Wokingham has decreased. In December 2022, that figure stood at 83%. But by December 2023, the figure has dropped to 78.6%. The regulatory burden for businesses to export is growing, with Santander UK Trade Barometer reporting that only 22% of businesses say that it is easier to trade internationally than it was 5 years ago. COVID-19 will have had an effect on these figures, but businesses in my constituency tell me that the chaos and instability of the previous Conservative government has impacted their business just as much. Can I ask the Minister a few questions to ensure that Wokingham and Berkshire and the Thames Valley continue to have a prosperous future? Will the Minister back small businesses and empower them to create new local jobs, including abolishing business rates and replacing them with a commercial landowner levy to help our high streets? Now, second question, will the Minister bring down trade barriers and enhance our relationship with our closest trading partners, including the fixing of our broken relationship with Europe? Third question, will the Minister speak to Network Rail and the Secretary of State for Transport and convince them of a need for a Western Railway link to Heathrow Airport? And finally, will the Minister for Investment meet with me and the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce to understand what they need to attract further inward investment? Thank you.
Bradley Thomas.
Thank you, Ms Harris. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I wish to congratulate the member for East Grinstead and Uckfield for securing this very important debate. She has quite rightly pointed out that a strong private sector that is incentivised to invest is really the foundation and cornerstone of living standards and prosperity, which we want all of our constituents to be able to enjoy. Over the last 4 years, the UK has dealt with a financial crisis, a pandemic and energy shock caused by the war in Ukraine. Yet despite these changes, since 2010, growth has been higher in the UK than in every other large European economy. Unemployment halved, absolute poverty down, and when Conservatives left government, the UK was one of the fastest growing economies in the G7. However, it is clear that since the election, the new government's policies and politics have hurt the confidence of businesses across the board. And I hear this regularly across my Bromsgrove constituency. I will.
Madam Chair. I'm amazed to hear this tone the day after. Anyone would think this is happening in isolation to a different world, a different galaxy. What about the business investment yesterday? Billions of pounds. This is action and commitment from businesses who have the confidence in this Labour government with its mandate and its deep commitment to new partnership with business. Did he not read the newspaper this morning? These are record-breaking figures and spelled truth to a record-breaking commitment to business investment.
Thank you, Chair. Well, in response, did the honourable member not recognise the conditions that the government inherited on their election in July? It's already been pointed out in this chamber this afternoon that the government's been rehashing billions of pounds worth of investment that the previous government secured and now passing off as their own. But back to the points I wish to make, Madam Chairman. The new government has claimed that its election has positively impacted business confidence. However, the Director's Economic Confidence Index, which measures business leader optimism in prospects for the UK economy, continued to fall in September to -38 from -12 in August 2024. According to the ONS, 55% of respondents to a voluntary business survey of challenges facing the economy felt that their business's performance would stay the same or decrease over the next year. Additionally, the CBI Industrial Trends Survey for September says that more manufacturers think that output will fall over the next 3 months than thought it would rise. And potentially most critically of all, the GfK Consumer Confidence Index fell to -20 in September, suggesting that consumers are lacking confidence in the vitality of our economy. That in large part is due to concerns over tax rises concerns which are shared by many businesses. Instead of making the UK a hostile destination for investment, government should work to ensure that the UK is the most attractive destination possible for investment. To become an attractive destination for inward investment, we need to urgently look at the factors which will determine investment decisions. The tax burden, which, whilst following the global pandemic and unprecedented levels of support provided by the previous government, is damaging business confidence through fear of higher taxes after the budget at the end of this month. Incentives for businesses to invest in large-scale capital projects, access to skills, a long-term industrial plan for the UK economy that will once again reward investment, a concerted effort on skills development that will lead to a long-term uplift in our industrial resilience. These are all areas that we need to be focusing on. And all of this is absolutely critical, Chairman, in a world where our adversaries seek to gain advantage over us and blunt our economic edge. There's a great opportunity here to reduce our dependency on foreign imports, focus on the long term. And this is particularly crucial to my constituency. I would like to see the government focus particularly on small businesses, how we foster a greater sense of individual entrepreneurship at a grassroots level. This will be of massive benefit to constituencies across the country, town centres including Bromsgrove, but also to rural businesses, as have been touched upon already this afternoon. So my key asks of the... I won't give way, I'm just about to wrap up. My key asks of the government, Chairman, are for them to be less ideological in their pursuit of investment in the UK, focus on the long term and those conditions that will ultimately drive inward investment decisions taken by businesses, not just focus on the large corporates. They are fundamental and key, but really focus on how we can promote grassroots entrepreneurship and really focus on cracking down on regulatory bureaucracy that gets in the way of business investment decisions.
Lib Dem spokesperson Sarah Gibson.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure, Ms Harris, to serve under your chairmanship and to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democrats as their business spokesperson for the first time. So I hope you'll be nice to me. Of course you will. I'd also like to congratulate my honourable friend, the MP for East Grinstead and Uckfield, for securing the debate. And I share her concerns about the high street retail and the micro businesses, which, like her, I have many in my constituency. And I also welcome, as she mentioned, the International Investment Summit, as I also welcome the government's industrial strategy. It will give business certainty and incentivise them to invest in new technologies and grow the economy and create that jobs and tackle the climate crisis. However, page 5 makes it very clear that the government is going to focus on the urban areas. And there seems to be no strategy regarding the growth of the rural economy, so clearly mentioned by colleagues earlier in this debate. And they say that they will devolve significant powers to the mayoral combined authorities. But I must ask the Minister what their plans are for those areas of rural England which are outside of those metro mayoral authorities, such as my constituency of Chippenham. A manufacturing in rural areas, according to the recent report by the Department for Environment and Rural Affairs, says that around 14% of manufacturing happens in rural locations. And a considerable amount of that is significant to those regional economies. Many of these small and medium-sized enterprises are specialising in areas like food processing and equipment manufacturing, a lot of that from diversification of farming families. And when it comes to renewable energy production, rural areas are at the forefront of the UK's renewable energy production. 70% of wind is in rural areas, as in solar. Chippenham has a large number of rural solar farms and is an important part of our upcoming local businesses. I would also like to point out that planning and infrastructure, planning takes twice as long in the UK as it does in most of our EU friends and neighbours, which is a barrier to investment. And I share the concerns of the honourable members about planning delays by farming families trying to diversify. Just as this complicated planning structure is an unnecessary cost for lots of small businesses in the rural areas. Dave Ricks, in his recent intervention by Lilly, the drug manufacturer, stated that the planning processes are impediment to opening businesses in the UK compared to the US, Ireland or Norway. In my own constituency, Johnson Matthey, who manufacture hydrogen fuel cells and are the UK's biggest investor in research and development in that area, are really concerned that we are going to lose out to China, just in the same way as we did with the battery technology, if we are not supporting infrastructure for hydrogen networks. Again, they are facing planning delays on their interests in this. And a recent DEFRA report highlights that 18% of rural businesses cite poor infrastructure, particularly digital and transport networks, as a significant barrier to growth. Again, the rural infrastructure just simply isn't there. And I'm sure that I will agree with many members of this place that although the previous Conservative government did fail business and workers in terms of stability over the last few years, that need for stability could never be stronger. We need to create that stable business environment with smart regulations and investment in that infrastructure, research and innovation. If we are to expect businesses to commit to promoting skills, equality and good governance and to support their local communities. Like my honourable friend mentioned, my honourable friend from Meriden and Solihull East, I would like to ask the member to take SMEs seriously given the importance that they give to our rural economy. A very serious issue that has come up time and time again in my constituency is an unfair tax hikes, especially when it comes around business rates. And I share my honourable members' concerns over national insurance rises for small businesses, especially for employers. I do feel quite strongly, and I share the pain of the member for South Antrim, and I hope I've pronounced it correctly, over the red tape suffered by businesses in Northern Ireland, given that businesses in my constituency exporting to the EU are also suffering from that similar red tape. And those of my honourable friend in Wokingham expressing his concerns for small businesses doing that. So I would like to close my remarks by thanking you, Madam Chairman, for this debate.
Thank you very much, Ms Harris, for agreeing to chair us today, and well done to the Honourable Member for East Grinstead and Uckfield for securing this debate. And what a good debate it has been. It's been a debate of two halves. This half, lots of interventions, lots of thoughts and processes about business confidence, and that half, which was entirely empty for the majority of the debate. There have been some very interesting contributions. Starting with the Honourable Member for East Grinstead and Uckfield, she quite rightly thanked businesses in all of our constituencies, and particularly focused on family businesses being the thriving local hubs of our communities, as well as the economic growth that they provide. And she correctly identified the importance of animal spirits, which are vital for growing an economy. And you can see in the first half of this year, we've had confidence growing in our business community, and what a disastrous change we now have with business confidence falling as a result of tax rates. You know, I'm not going to take an intervention. I feel quite strong that if an honourable gentleman cannot make it to the start of a debate, wanders in halfway through and then seeks to make an intervention to ask a question, I will, but I'm just would like to refute this. Perhaps if he takes out Hansard, he can find the answer in the first half of the debate. So the Honourable Member for Meriden and Solihull East, he's right that business is in a holding pattern with uncertainty, and that SMEs are indeed the lifeblood of our community. And then the Honourable Member for South Basildon and East Thurrock, he's quite right to say that his community is rich with potential. There are concerns, however, over the delay of the decision on the Lower Thames crossing, and he thought that DP World there should have been a more professional approach taken by the government, and I agree with him. And finally, the Honourable Member for Bromsgrove, he rightly pointed out that between 2010 and 2024, growth has been higher in the UK economy than all the main EU economies, and that there is opportunity if we focus on entrepreneurship and also on rural businesses. Madam Chair, we've highlighted throughout this debate the slump in business confidence since Labour came to power. Not just business confidence, but also consumer confidence. And why is it? Well, don't take my word for it. The ex-chief economist of the Bank of England, Andy Haldane, said that the government's approach has generated, and I quote, fear and foreboding and uncertainty among consumers, businesses and investors. Because Labour's plan appears to have been, we'll come into power, we'll say it's all terrible, it's so much worse than we thought it was. We'll say that there's this black hole, by the way, a black hole that the Treasury officials were unable to find when the Financial Times asked to see the data behind it. And this would give us political cover for long-planned tax increases. The problem is that political gains, in this case, have been paid for by jobs and lost futures, because after a delay of nearly 4 months of inaction, this inept political vacuum has been filled with speculation and rumour, kite-flying and denial. And the so what is that the government incompetence has cost jobs. The CBI have just said that it's clear that firms are holding back from employment because of budget fears. AJ Bell, the consultancy, says that directors of listed companies have doubled sales of shares since the general election, businesses voting with their feet. And Evelyn Partners said that a third of private business owners with turnovers in excess of 5 million have accelerated their exit strategies. Why? Because of fears about capital gains tax and inheritance tax relief. This is our entrepreneurial future, Madam Chair, being destroyed by the inaction of the government. It doesn't matter if the rumours are true or false. The fact that they are rumours are having the devastating impact on their own right. And now the direction is clear. It appears to be that the government is going to increase employer national insurance contributions. This is, as the IFS, Paul Johnson, said, a clear breach of manifesto promise. The Chancellor of the Exchequer has, when considering this previously, said it's an anti-business measure. I agree. And the OBR have told us that the impact of an increase in employer national insurance contributions will be to lower wages. Labour pulling off the triple, misleading the public, harming business and lowering wages, all with the same policy. The more business see of this government, the less they like it. When will this party of opposition that finds itself in government get a grip?
Minister Gareth Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also, in the usual way, should take this opportunity to thank the Honourable Lady for East Grinstead and Uckfield for securing this important debate. Let me, at the outset, echo her thanks to businesses across the country for the wealth they create, for the better communities they help to ensure, and crucially for the good jobs that they offer. I don't know where her Taste of East Grinstead event is taking place, but if it's taking place in the House, then I would very happily try and get along if I can do. If not, very happy to hear from her separately about the particular businesses who turn up to that event. I think as a number of interventions from honourable members made clear, small businesses in particular are the backbone of our economy, and I feel particularly privileged to be the Minister for Small Businesses and to hear some of the remarkable stories about how those small businesses came into being and the successes that they've had in each of our communities. And that's why also I'm pleased that we have been making progress in following through on the commitments that we made in opposition in our 9-point plan to back small businesses in government. And if time allows, Ms Harris, I hope to touch on some of those issues. I welcome too the support of all the honourable members who've spoken for their business communities, even if I didn't quite agree with the tone of all the ways in which they put their remarks. All of us need our businesses in our communities to succeed going forward. And it's great to hear so many honourable members in opposition, as well as on this side, wanting to back businesses to succeed going forward. And indeed, the Prime Minister, I think, couldn't have been any clearer about this government's guiding mission. We will go for growth at every opportunity. Growth backing business is the surest path to prosperity and to improving the living standards of working people. We've made clear that our goal is to deliver the highest sustained growth in the G7, more secure jobs, better wages and much greater funding as a result for our public services including our brilliant NHS. Now, it surely goes without saying that investment is key to driving this growth. And I say this gently to members opposite. The problem is that the previous administrations of the last 14 years sadly starved our economy of the investment it needed. The fallout from the poor quality deal the party opposite negotiated with the European Union after the Brexit referendum, the revolving door we had of prime ministers. I think every member opposite backed Liz Truss's disastrous mini budget. 7 separate growth strategies since 2010, 11 different business secretaries in as many years. I should say to honourable members opposite, all of this might help to explain why they lost the confidence of business at the last general election. And if they're, I will give way in a second. If they're not convinced of that, let me just underline, there was no plan to help small businesses grow. There was no plan to help small businesses export, to get them into new markets. Support in that area was cut back and in some cases axed completely. There was no delivery on repeated promises to comprehensively reform business rates. No serious plan to tackle the scourge of late payments that many small businesses face at the moment. Vital infrastructure projects that were fundamental to growth in many communities were cancelled. Sensible measures to open up opportunities for investment in green energy projects were blocked. And there was no obvious plan to back the high street, point the honourable member for Basildon made. No serious plan in particular to tackle retail crime going forward. The result of all of that is that British firms just haven't felt that investing domestically was enough of an attractive proposition. There has been much reluctance to adopt new technology, to upskill employees, or to plough money into research and development. And it's why, sadly, the UK has sat right at the bottom of global rankings for business investment for quite some time. 27th out of 30 in the OECD last year, behind Mexico, Slovenia, and the Slovak Republic. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
The Minister for that point, and if it goes back to my contribution, it is about seeking what this government can do in the next few weeks to regard that assurance that those small businesses in my constituency in South Antrim need to know about being able to continue their online presence and actually selling into the UK.
Yeah, I thank the honourable member for his both his earlier remarks and his question now. And let me be clear that the department in Northern Ireland, at my department in Northern Ireland, will continue to work with local partners, including Intertrade, to develop and deliver our trade and industrial strategies. If he wants to speak to me separately, I'd be very happy to try and help the small businesses who've written to him join up with the support that is available in Northern Ireland. Now, members across the House will be pleased that there is good news on growth. I welcome the very generous support, let me put it like that way, from the Honourable Lady for the work yesterday and in the run-up to yesterday at the International Investment Summit, where there was a raft of measures announced to help boost business confidence going forward and spur growth. Let me recap, Ms Harris, on some of the measures that were announced. We're determined to make it simpler for companies to relocate to the UK through a new corporate redomiciliation regime, one that will strengthen, I'm sure, our position as a global business hub. We've announced a business-boosting lift to the thresholds on company sizes too, so it means that we'll have new legislation by the end of the year, reducing the burdens on startups and SMEs, saving them nearly £250 million at the same time. And we'll be consulting next year on an ambitious modernisation programme of the UK's entire non-financial reporting regime. We're seeking to make shareholder communication easier. We're clarifying the law on virtual AGMs. These improvements, helping to reduce red tape, could be worth up to £16 billion a year to investment going forward. As a result of the pro-innovation, pro-business, pro-wealth creation policies we're pursuing, big-hitting global businesses are confidently investing here in the UK. The total investment pledged by international and British firms, both in the run-up to and during the summit yesterday, now stands at an estimated £63 billion, helping to ensure 38,000 jobs are created. A resounding vote of confidence, I would gently suggest, in both the UK's economy and indeed the government's growth mission. Good way to my honourable friend.
Thank you very much, Minister. He's making a powerful argument, a very clear argument for this government's commitment to a new partnership with business. Would the Minister agree with me that the sum of investment yesterday is really important, grabs the headlines, gets people confident about the future, but actually, to the point at the brief the Honourable Minister is responsible for, that actually part of the ecosystem that our small businesses are, that they form part of the larger investment sum that's been committed to yesterday. Will he explore that in his final remarks as to how important it is to small business?
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention, and if I may, I'll come on to that in just one second, because one of the measures that was announced yesterday, which will strengthen business confidence further, and which many businesses were telling us in opposition, and indeed have been telling us since we got into government that they've been crying out for, is an industrial strategy. Every government has an industrial strategy, either consciously or not, through act or through omission. And this government is choosing to actively have and to implement an industrial strategy, one that will help business plan not just for the next year, but for the next 10 years and beyond. And that is a strategy that will not just help large businesses, it won't just help businesses in urban areas, as the Honourable Lady for Chippenham asked, and I congratulate her on making her first speech as an opposition spokesperson. It will benefit all parts of the country, and businesses large and small. Our industrial strategy will inject capital into 8 high productivity, high export, high investment sectors, those in which the UK has a significant competitive advantage. Financial services, professional and business services, clean energy industries, digital and technologies, advanced manufacturing, life sciences, creative industries and defence. Above all else, though, I think our industrial strategy will show that we are listening and responding to the needs of businesses going forward. And to that end, we will engage on those more complex issues that we know are barriers to investment: skills, data, finance, regulation, energy prices, grid connections, infrastructure, planning, which a couple of members have rightly referenced. We want to view every single one of those measures through the lens of investment promotion. So that's, I believe, how we will continue to build long-term confidence, ensuring that our policies are made with business for businesses going forward. Honourable members opposite raised a number of questions about our make work pay. I think it is striking the number of businesses who are backing our make work pay plans. Over 60% of UK managers, for example, surveyed by the University of Birmingham just a couple of years ago, said, for example, on flexibility for employees, that home working improved their team's motivation. A staggering 75% said flexible working boosted their team's productivity, something honourable members opposite have complained about in the past. It's a similar story when you look at pay. IPPR research shows that 70% of managers believe raising the national minimum wage to reflect living costs would help, not hinder their businesses. The Honourable Lady referenced the fact that many of the measures that we've announced as part of that package will come in 2026. That will enable us to continue to talk to businesses and employee representatives as well, to make sure we get the details right of that going forward. And I have no doubt that the budget on the 30th of this month will be a budget for growth. We face a very difficult inheritance as a government, and we have to fix the fundamentals of our economy going forward. I gently say to the honourable member for Broadland and Fakenham, he may not be comfortable with the mess that his party left us, but figures released just last month show that there was another month of record government borrowing, debt at 100% of GDP. That is the inheritance members opposite leftists. We have to fix those fundamentals. We will do. It will be a budget for growth, and I have no doubt that our economy will continue to grow and that British business will continue to grow from strength to strength.
Mims Davies, very, very briefly.
I thank the Minister for his response, and I will welcome him to the Taste of East Grinstead and Uckfield with gusto. Therefore, I will forgive his amnesia around the NICS cuts, around the changes that we've made to VAT registration, the support we've given to SMEs, the Help to Grow portal. Thank all honourable members for their support in this debate around business confidence, and implore the government in its budget gives this country the stability we need, because if there is a further jobs tax, it will also have to be matched by those paying it in the public sector. Thank you.
The question is if this House has considered business confidence. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. Order, order. The sitting stands adjourned. Yeah, I get it, but I...